Hello and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm your host, Conley Zani. This show is under the auspices of Rich Rayner, our Portsmouth Town Administrator. Together, Rich, myself, and the entire Portsmouth This Week team are on a mission to build community. We do that by bringing you accurate and timely information about the events and information that impacts you. We introduce you to the faces, the personalities, the leaders in this magical place in which we live. I'm very honored today to have Rich himself here. Welcome back to the show, Rich.
Okay. Nice to be here. Thank you.
We have so much to talk about.
Yep.
I feel like we should do several back-to-back shows here. So we'll see if we can kind of hit the highlights of several topics. You know, you can't go around this town without seeing signs for and against all sorts of issues, right?
Yep.
So what should we start with? South Coast wind? What do you think?
Sure.
You're like, hit me with the big one.
Let's get into it.
All right. So
Sure.
tell us something accurate about the situation, all right? Because there's so much misinformation out there. So
Sure.
what's going on with our role, the council, the contracts?
Sure. I mean, in a nutshell, the federal government has leased land offshore so that developers could put in wind turbines to create green energy that would tie into the electrical grid. That's
And that's a federal initiative, and that is happening.
Yeah, it's a pillar of the nation's energy strategy to become more energy self-sufficient and create more green energy so that we can divest ourselves of our need for carbon-based energy. That's the bottom line.
Right.
So it's a federal initiative. It's a national government initiative. It trickles down to the states. The governors of New England have all signed on to this. So it's coming.
Right.
How it affects Portsmouth. There is a developer, South Coast Wind, formerly Mayflower, that has leased some of these fields. They're going to erect turbines. They're going to have to tie into the grid. Their plan is to tie in at Braden Point. The most feasible economic and shortest route, I guess, for them is to come up the Saconnet, cut across Portsmouth, go back into the bay, and tie into Braden Point. That is not a Portsmouth decision. That is a proposal that will go before the Energy Facility Siting Board.
That's a state.
That's a state agency.
Okay.
That will require opinion and advisory opinions from a number of agencies, to include Portsmouth. But each of those agencies will be asked for advisory opinions in very specific areas. So Portsmouth will not be asked, do you support wind energy? We will not be asked to render an opinion on environmental effects, effects on wildlife, effects on tourism. That's not what Portsmouth is going to be asked to do. So this is a proposal that was brought to Portsmouth. They have been discussing, this has been discussed in open with the town council. The town council did give me and staff our marching orders to negotiate with South Coast Wind what's known as a host community agreement that would be most beneficial to Portsmouth and look out for our interests. We did the best we could, and that's where it stood. This proposed contract, host community agreement, was presented to the council at the last council meeting, and obviously they voted to sign it. Totally well aware of all the issues, pro and con, emotional or not emotional on both sides. That wasn't our task. Our task was to do, if this is going to go through, what can we do for Portsmouth to protect our interests? Right. It's 2,400 feet of cable on town property. The rest is either on private property or town property. As I said, the decision is ultimately going to be made by the EFSB. There are many, many boards, many other pieces of the puzzle that are going to have to fall in place before this project goes forward. This is just one small piece of the pie. It was presented, and we're going to do it. I'll hit the nail on the head right here. Obviously, there were two big issues that came up that I am aware of that people have talked about. The first is the value of the host community agreement, and there's been a lot of chatter about, well, the value is not really $23 million. I can only respond to that. Yes, you know, I have 2 master's degrees, and I have also 2 degrees in business. I understand the future value of money. I understand the net present
Net
value.
present value, yes,
I
right,
get
right.
it. I get it. And yes, those are valid discussions to be had. However, if I give you 10 rocks, 100 years from now, you're still going to have 10 rocks. The value of those rocks may be different. The contract is a $23 million contract. If this goes through, we're going to get $23 million. The future value of that money, the net present value of that money, compared to our assumptions of inflation over time, will change.
Will be different, yes.
What we had to do was negotiate in relative to what was in the realm of the possible and compared to other host community agreements that have been negotiated. And quite frankly, foot for foot, this is the most valuable, lucrative HCA that has been negotiated thus far.
Right.
It's about $10,000 a foot.
And again, that was your task.
That was our task.
Not to say yes or no to South Coast Wind.
Correct.
That's not Portsmouth's
and it's difficult
decision.
because I hear what people have to say, both
Yeah.
for and against.
Yeah.
But that's not my task. My task was to do, if we're going to do this, what is in it for Portsmouth? And we did the best we could. The other thing that I'll just tackle, there's an argument that, well, we altered the contract prior to the council agreeing to this. That's not really true. There were edits made. We posted it right after we got it. We got it at Christmas. We had to wait for people to get in the office. As soon as people got in the office, it was posted so that people could look at it, the council could look at it. We did get feedback from some people, particularly 2 councilors, who saw typos and asked if language could be made more consistent and could we clarify some of the language that was in the contract that would solidify our position with respect to the proposed routes. We talked to South Coast and we did it.
And the essence didn't change.
Nothing changed with regard to the structure or the value of the contract. What we did is we clarified who had the legal authority, Rhode Island courts. We clarified that we would have to negotiate in good faith with both parties would have to negotiate if the ultimate route is other than the 2 proposed routes that are in the contract. And we made a whereas statement where almost all of the contract stated that the council would not oppose the project. There was a whereas that stated that the council would support. It's a nuanced difference, but it's something that we had to discuss, and we changed that to match the rest of the document where it said the council would not oppose. That's all that happened, you know. So
right.
That's it. So the HCA is signed. The town gets $500,000 on signing. We've already received $100,000. None of this has to be turned back if the project doesn't move forward. There's still a long way to go before this goes forward.
Right.
But the town got $600,000 for negotiating in good faith and signing the document, and that will be up to the council on how they want to expend those funds.
All right, well, congratulations on that. And thanks for clarifying some of those things.
Sure.
There's, again, so much misinformation out there. So love to hear it right straight from you. So
Thanks.
Let's tackle another tricky one. How about roundabout?
Oh my God.
I'm just going to keep them coming.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that the concept and the idea of roundabouts really predates my tenure. This was something that's been discussed since the early 2000s, 2003, 4, 5, and it rolled up into the town center project. It's a very emotional topic. However, in December of 2021, we were issued a request from DOT to get council support for wrapping up projects in the State Transportation Improvement Program. There were a bunch of projects all tied in with East Main Road, and they wanted to bundle those projects in one project, Middletown and Portsmouth, to include a roundabout.
Okay.
And that was put up for vote back in January 2022. The council approved it. The plans finally reached 100% level. On the 100% stage, they were ready to bid the contract, and Director Alviti asked me to go before, well, to have the council, well, he asked me to do it. I told to affirm support for the project. I said I don't have that authority. That has to go to the council. It went to the council. The meeting had to get postponed. There was a special meeting where, in principle, they agreed to it. So that's agreement number 2. But they had questions. DOT said that all the questions are available. We're not going to answer the questions because we've already answered them either in documents or meetings that have already been held. Staff answered those questions for the council. We submitted those to the council. And then there was another meeting where, after a long deliberation, the council decided to affirm their support for the project to include the roundabout.
Where are we in the timeline?
That is now
Sorry.
that was just before Christmas. I received a letter on January 10th from DOT saying that, you know, after everything that they had put us through and all the special meetings and the emotions that were displayed, they decided to walk away. They just wrote a letter saying that we're not moving forward with the project, and we don't know when it will be included into the TIP again.
And in particular, the project being the whole project, not just the roundabout.
And I had numerous discussions with
Right.
DOT. Listen, I'm not taking a position for or against on a roundabout, but why are we going to throw away the baby with the bathwater and not pave East Main Road? Can we at least pave East Main Road and defer the discussion on the roundabout or that intersection and come to a consensus on that later? The answer was no. It would have to be entirely redesigned and rescoped, and we either do it or we don't. Boom. So the
Interesting.
council
Okay.
voted. We got the letter. I tried for a week to get DOT to respond to me. I had very specific questions about what happened, what were the decisions, why were they made. No answer. I decided to go to the governor, and I went to the governor for one very specific reason. The Director of Transportation does not have the authority to make major revisions to the State Transportation Improvement Program. That has to come and be vetted through the State Planning Council and then vetted through the governor's office. I wasn't trying to play mom against dad or anything like that. I was just trying to get the governor to help us in a non-confrontational way, help facilitate a meeting and an agreement with DOT where we could talk about the project and not just throw it away.
Right.
I did
Like
that.
not so binary. Just there's
Not so
got to be.
binary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was on I wrote that letter on I think the 16th or the 17th. I don't remember. The following day, Elvidi was on the morning radio show, Thursday morning radio show. I did not listen to it, but I heard from numerous people that he was on the radio, and he said it was Portsmouth's fault, and he stopped the project, paused the project because Portsmouth had flip-flopped numerous times. That didn't sit well with me because we had not flip-flopped. The council had voted 3 times to affirm this project and support this project. So that's when I made the decision not to wait for a response from the governor's office on my letter. I decided that I needed to talk to the governor directly. I ended up talking to his liaison, and the chief of staff discussed the situation with Director Elvidi, and Director Elvidi called me later that day to affirm that DOT is behind the project. They're going to do the project. It's going to happen in reverse order. Portsmouth will go behind the Middletown portion of the project.
Okay.
And right now, the roundabout is in the project. However, this will give time for, there's litigation against the town and DOT. Everybody knows from Clements Market regarding the project. This will give us time to settle that case and then re-engage with stakeholders and abutters to come to a resolution and a consensus on what needs to be done with that intersection. I don't care what happens with the intersection. I care that whatever is done right, and that we don't abandon the rest of East Main Road
Over the roundabout.
because people are upset about the roundabout.
Right.
Work needs to get done, and it should be done in Portsmouth.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that they'll be able to ultimately separate that if they need to. But it sounds like that's the plan. They're going to start in Middletown on Route 138 and then come on up to Portsmouth.
Correct.
While we settle some legal things.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think the important part of that is not just a legal thing. The important part of that is there's a commitment from DOT that we will re-engage with, as he said, aggrieved parties, obviously the abutters, and hopefully we can come to a consensus on what's right to do there. but we shouldn't just walk away from it and then make threats that it may never get back into the tip again. That's not the right thing to do.
Absolutely not, and that's great. And thank you. It sounds like your conversations, thank you for that. That's the hard work, right? Right there, just being like, yikes, right? All right, that's fantastic. All right, so let's talk another biggie.
Oh boy.
Transfer station?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah?
So, sure. Another very passionate topic in Portsmouth. There was never a discussion to close the transfer station. There was years ago, about 7, 8 years ago. There was. We were asked to put out a request for proposals on going to curbside, and then allowing, if they so choose, vendors to use the transfer station as part of their operation, but it would cease becoming a transfer station the way citizens use it.
Yeah.
But that was done and settled, and it was decided not to move forward with that RFP. The latest round, there was an idea that we would move forward with a hybrid solution where you would get curbside, but then diversion items would be handled at the transfer station. It would be open like twice a week. Obviously, there are people. There's about 2,200 households out of almost 7,000 in Portsmouth that utilize the transfer station, and they're very passionate, as the council heard. So I think ultimately, this is the way things work, and this is the way things should work. I think it came to a good resolution. And we'll see how it plays out in the future, but we're going to issue 2 RFPs. We'll have 2 enterprise funds. We'll have the transfer station enterprise funds, where you pay to use the transfer station if that's what you want to use, and you use it just the same way you're using it today. That contract ends June 2025, and usually we send those requests for proposals out about 6 months in advance. So around Christmas of this year, we'll send out an RFP for the continued operation of that transfer station the way it's currently used. And if people want to use it, that's great. We'll be releasing on Monday a request for proposals for curbside pickup. Now, I know that there's a lot of passion. We shouldn't do this, but I have to sit there and think to myself, if there's 2,200 households out of almost 7,000 that are using a transfer station, what are the almost 5,000 households doing without the transfer station? Well, they're contracting. And I know that those prices have gone up considerably. If there's something that the town can do for them, reduce the number of trucks on the road, provide good service and a cheaper price, that gives them the kind of service that they're used to having and that they want, and then maybe that's something we can do, because that's what they're asking us to do, and that's what the council's asked us to do. So it'll be think of it as 2 clubs. You'll have the curbside club, and you'll have the enterprise or the transfer station club, and you can join both, or you can join either. One, it doesn't matter. But you'll have a cafeteria menu of 2, and you'll decide as a resident how you want your trash handled moving forward. If the bids come back on the curbside that are competitive and something that the council wants to move forward with.
Right, absolutely.
So I think everybody got what they wanted. I hope.
Yeah.
There's no Machiavellian thought that we're going to take services away from people. It's all about trying. There's limited dollars, whether it's an enterprise fund or a government fund. It's still money that people have to spend out of their pocket, and how can we help?
Yeah. Now, I heard some interesting comparisons of us versus some other towns. Can you kind of clarify some of those, or did you follow up on any of that?
I did. There was a very specific comment about a town in Connecticut that operated it at a much reduced cost.
Right. How'd they do that?
Well, obviously it piqued my interest. I mean, I wanted to make sure if this is in fact true, how could we offer a transfer station at $40 per resident? And if we could do the same thing that this town or city was doing, then we ought to look at it, because that's the first time I'd ever heard something like that. Well, it turns out that's not quite the whole story. Their transfer station is available to all residents, so it's much like Sandy Point. If you're a resident, you can get a sticker to the transfer station. The reason they can do that is because the transfer station is in the tax base. So whether you use the transfer station or not, you're paying for it already.
Oh, in your taxes.
That's in your taxes.
And that's not the case with us.
That's not, no, it used to be, but it's not the case with us.
Okay.
And then the price that was mentioned is not so much the price for the use of the transfer station, the price is for disposition of bulky waste and diversion items, if you go over a certain amount, there is, at this time, a $60 fee minimum, and then it goes up from there. So that's their
Okay, so
transportation.
those numbers just weren't quite.
They weren't
on.
quite accurate. And then there was a discussion about, well, limiting the garbage truck size by law, and the garbage had to be picked up at your home. The town has nothing to do with that. That was mentioned. That is between you and your vendor. But there is no. The only requirement is that waste haulers in that town have to be registered with the town. That's the only requirement. But they can use full-size pickup. They can use full-size trucks. They could use bins at the curb. That's between you and your vendor, and the town does not get involved in that at all. So structurally, it's nearly, other than the fact that their transfer station is in the tax base, ours is an enterprise fund, there's really no difference. They have to pay extra for their bulky waste if they go over a certain limit. We have kind of almost the same, where you have so many runs, bulky waste runs. So it's a very, very similar program, except
Right.
they don't have pay-as-you-throw, we have pay-as-you-throw bags.
Well, that makes more sense, and thank you for clarifying that. So speaking of tax base, let's talk budget. All right, and we've kind of just got 5 minutes left. I've thrown so many biggies at you.
Yeah.
So let's talk budget, where we are in that process, and
Sure. We actually, literally today, right before I came here, Finance had their last meeting with the last department. So all the department budgets have been received. Now there's some follow-ups and there's some clarifications that will all happen over the next week or two. I will start. I've got it on a USB stick in my pocket right now. I will be going through that this weekend. I will be sitting down next week with the finance director to smooth out the budget as it is requested. As happens every year at this time, it's going to be, it will far exceed what the council either has a stomach for or what the law allows with respect to the levy. The levy can only go up maximum 4% year over year at any time.
Right.
We try not to approach that. There's people obviously don't like that, and nor do I. Once we have that ironed out, I will bring in each of the departments, and we'll let them know what we think the priorities are. It'll be a give and take, and we will come to a consensus within the staff on this is what we asked for. The same thing is kind of happening in parallel on the school side. They'll have 2 budget presentations in February, and then they'll do their 3rd budget presentation to the school committee in March. We'll get the school budget. It's a little bit easier, just the way the calendar lays out this year than other years, because I'll get the school budget about 2 weeks before I'm required to turn the town budget over to the council. Normally, I only get a couple days, which is 3 sleepless nights trying to get this ironed out.
Absolutely.
And so we'll have 2 weeks. So it'll be a much more measured process this year. I don't expect any big changes. I did lay out some initiatives to the council the other night. The fact of the matter is, we have difficulty hiring and retaining people right now. We do need to take a look at compensation. We do need to take a look at organization. Our planning department is tasked with doing a lot, and it's not organized very well, so we have some ideas there. The fire department, we have a very expert and professional fire department, literally and figuratively. However, I think that needs to be laid out a little bit better. And then in capital, there are some things that we want to address. I mean, I know that we've been looking at the SSS fields forever. We'll do our best to see what we can do to get that project kick-started again. That's been languishing for quite a while. We want to finish the walls in Linden Lane. There is some improvements at Glen Manor House that we think we might be eligible for with respect to grant money. I'll need to see how much grant match will be required, but I think we'll be able to replace the boilers there. We want to continue the public safety capital fund which helps pay for the fire vehicles and 2 police cars every year,
Right.
tasers, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff coming, but this is always the tough part of the year because, you know, I have to be the Grinch and sit down with the departments and say, these are all great ideas.
We can't do them all.
You got to pick 3 out of 10 here, you know.
Right, right.
Because that's tough, but that's what has to happen. You know, but I think we're on good footing. I don't expect any big surprises in the budget. I think the school is going to work very hard to keep their budget request at a nominal growth rate. Where they got the school bond, we're moving along nicely with respect to the projects in the schools. We'll be doing the elevator at Hathaway. We'll be doing finishing up bathrooms in the elementary schools, and in the last year we'll be doing the bathrooms in the middle
We'll
school.
have to get Dr. Kenworthy on here to talk about some of those fun things too.
Yeah.
That's always a treat.
So?
Well, listen, we need to have you on another show very soon because
do it.
I got 4 or 5 more things I want to talk to you about.
Awesome.
But we're at the end of our show, and I so appreciate you
Right
coming
back.
and
Welcome.
and talking to us.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. This has been Portsmouth This Week with our guest, Rich Rayner himself. We'll see you next time. Hi, this is Conley Zani from Common Fence Point. I have a great event to tell you about. Saturday, February 3rd at 2 p.m., we are having our All Abilities Zumba Showcase. By all abilities, I mean those young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities will be teaching the entire Zumba class. They've worked all year, every Friday, on learning how to teach their favorite songs. And so this Saturday, the 3rd, they're going to be putting on quite the show for their loved ones, moms, dads, friends, and family. This is a free event, and it is all sponsored by the John E. Fogerty Foundation that takes care of those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Hope to see you there. Hi, this is Conley Zani from Common Fence Point. We have a Winter Wonderland Ball coming up on February 10th at 7 p.m. It's a time to put on your gowns and your tuxes and come out. Neil and the Vipers will be playing live music. We're going to have a beautiful hors d'oeuvres and food. Please come join us. Common Fence Point. You can find tickets at commonfencepoint.org.
The Newport Navy Choristers is a local choral group associated with the military that raises money for local 501c3 organizations. If you would like to join us on our journey and learn more about us or become one of our sponsors for a concert to benefit your organization, please visit us at www.newportnavychoristers.org.